Good evening. This is going to be my video review of the Leica Q, like Quebec 116, Type 116. This is a new camera. It has a full frame sensor, 24 by 36 more or less, and it has a fixed 28mm lens. In this particular case, 28mm is the effective length and the real length, since it's a full frame sensor. Predecessors to this, I got the X1 back in 2010, got the X Vario perhaps 2012, got the Leica T I think in 2013 or 14, and now it's the Leica Q, and there's a lot of differences, so I'm going to have to run through these as quick as I can. The camera does not have a removable lens. It has the fixed lens. So, and that is the sound of a solid metal lens cap hitting the floor. This is a different kind of lens cap. Instead of kind of clicking on the inside, it goes completely over the lens and has a friction feel to it. It's a little hard to get off of here, actually. You have to pull pretty hard. So excellent lens cap. It's got some felt on the inside. It let's see, where to even begin on this camera. This is the strap that came with it, and I ordered a Leica strap that has it's a wide strap. It's probably about 3 times this wide. And the reason why I even have that strap at all, since I carry it on the wrist with the with this Leica wrist strap. This strap came with some other camera. I don't know, not this particular camera. But the reason why I have this strap is so I can kind of hang it around my neck and when I'm not shooting with it. But I really don't like to do that. I've been using this bag here, this Leica compact camera system bag. It's a pretty small bag, barely fits this camera on the inside. Width-wise, lengthwise there's more than enough room, twice as much, but width-wise it barely fits. But anyway, what I wanted ideally was this type of camera case, which I have my Leica Deluxe in right now. But this type of camera case is important because with this case, camera slides in and fits exactly, and wrist strap out of the way, and it just snaps shut like this. And then with the shoulder strap, you just hang this on your shoulder and forget about it, and there you go. And it carries vertically. And I'm emphasizing this because I'm hoping to either get somebody to make one of these or get Leica to start issuing for this new compact camera here. And despite the size it is a compact camera, it is not a system camera. And anyway, the importance of this isn't just the mode of carry and how convenient that is, but it's also has the kind of looks where you can take it places where an ugly camera case really doesn't want to go. But anyway, that's why I have the strap on here, so I'm going to get the bigger strap and we'll see how that goes. This camera has some interesting features. Let's see if I can turn this on. I hope the screen isn't too bright for this video here. But anyway, this goes from off to single and continuous. And continuous, you get off about 10 frames a second. And this is a real fast performer. This is unlike the M cameras, which are ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk. This one goes, and it's done. You know, it's very, very fast. So you get the shutter dial here for shutter priority, A for auto. And when you go, when you want to go in between these full stops here and everything else, this little thumb wheel here will do that. It'll give you the 1/3 stops on shutter, so you need both of those if you're going to go 1/3 stops on shutter. On aperture, we're already set to do that here, and we have 1 point, if we can get that to move here, come on, aperture dial, there we go, 1.72, 2.8, 4, and so on. And these do go 1/3 clicks, and then A for auto. And down here we have the macro setting on macro, you get closer up, but it's limited to, I forget, so many centimeters, maybe about 3 feet, something like that. But you'll notice that the distance dial here changes when you put macro on, which is kind of interesting, convenient for people. And then there's a focus on here, and they have a little knob on here, and I press this a certain way to release this, and then you can manually focus just like that. And then getting back to autofocus, you give it a little push and it kind of clicks into place there. So right now I'm on autofocus, auto here, auto aperture, and on continuous. So even at that slow shutter speed, whatever that was, it's pretty quick. Outdoors on regular light, it's very, very fast. This is 1.5 pounds, actually 1 pound 7.5 ounces. So it's people are describing this thing as light. It's not light. It's pretty dense and it feels pretty heavy for its size. I like that. The little extra weight is good for stabilizing it, even though it has image stabilization built in. I haven't used the hot shoe for anything, but you can put a flash on there. There's no built-in flash. This camera costs $4,250. And justification for that is, let's look at the bottom here. There's a tripod mount there. Here we have the SD card and the battery. It's a pretty good little compartment right there. So anyway, the justification for that is this. If you were comparing this to something competitive, a full frame but fixed lens camera, like one of the Sonys, I think you can get those for around $3,000, maybe even less than that if it's discounted. Hard to get discounts on a camera like this. But anyway, that may sell for $1,000 to $1,500 less than this. So if you're good with Sony, if you like Sony, go for it. It's going to give you a lot more for your money. This may have a slightly better spec according to Tech Radar. It does. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But whether it's really worth that extra money or not depends. If you want a Leica that's made in Germany, of course, this is it. If you compare this on the other end, which a lot of people don't, but if you were to, if you decide you wanted to walk around with a Leica M with a 28mm prime lens, that's going to cost you well over $10,000, maybe $11,000, $12,000, and this is only $4,250. So compared to an M, this is a real bargain. And compared to an M, this has excellent electronic viewfinder, very high-res viewfinder, a little diopter wheel there. It has very high performance, speed for taking pictures, at least 10 a second. And the M monochrome that I had was, like I said, ka-chunk, 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 pretty slow. So a very high performer, and the only criticism I've heard of it is that compared to their best 28mm lens, this one may have a little vignetting or something. But as a practical matter, it seems to be pretty good to me, pretty sharp at least in the center and out to as far as I want to go. Maybe if you're going to do architecture and you need it to be absolutely crystal clear edge to edge, this might not be the best choice, but again, I don't really know. Might depend on what RAW developer you use, if you're shooting RAW, and what kind of corrections you get. Anyway, there's a little thumb indent right here. This is pretty nice, actually. When I have the wrist strap on, I have my thumb in that thumb indent, and that's pretty good. And I'm 3 fingers on the front of the camera, which has a nice texture to it. And it's not smooth, it has a good texture. And then the last finger on here, and I can take photos with one hand in most cases. I can hold that pretty steady. But it is 1.5 pounds, so it going to get tiresome after a while if you don't have a way to carry it. At least have the wrist strap, and a heavy duty one at that. There's playback, delete button here. We have the function button by default does something really interesting. If we can see that here, when I oh no, the function button is set to see, that's set to exposure compensation, and you push it again, exposure bracketing, flash exposure compensation, and back to exposure compensation. So yeah, I use that in some cases here. The more interesting button is up here. I forget what they actually call this button, but it puts in frame lines, and I think we can almost see those here. You can see that frame line coming in. With no frame lines, we're shooting 28 millimeter. With the first frame line, we're shooting 35, and it actually crops to 35 millimeter in camera, which is about 15 megapixels. Then the second frame line is down here at an effective focal length of 50 millimeters, and it crops to that size, which is 7.5 megapixels. And the quality at those settings, I compared 50 millimeter shooting on here to the Leica Deluxe, which is a 4/3 camera, and Leica Deluxe won that contest. More pixels, but you know, there's no magic here. You get what you get, and so if you're cropping that way, you're gonna, you know, lose data. But at least it's a really great feature, and I've actually been using it. So anyway, I normally shoot on ISO 200 fixed. A lot of people have commented on the fact that the camera really likes to pick really low apertures when you're on automatic and really huge shutter speeds in daylight shooting. But anyway, I've kind of betted that a little bit by choosing ISO 200. And besides, I like to have a low ISO for daylight shooting, and maybe even for nighttime shooting if I can get away with it. So let's see, we have the menu, very straightforward menu. This is interesting. When I first got this, I just turned it on, set it up, and I didn't have to have the book to go through this entire menu. I could figure out everything just from looking at this. It was a very intuitive menu. Had no problem with that at all. Let's see if I can say anything about any of these particular settings here. The digital zoom we're seeing right now is because of the frame line that I set before. Focus is you know, the usual stuff, and there's an auto magnification if you're on manual focus, where you can do a certain amount of enlargement or more enlargement on the playback screen, or the, you know, live view or whatever they call that, so that you can get a really fine focus that way. Exposure compensation, metering, I usually choose the center one here, center weighted. That's pretty standard. Bracketing is pretty standard. Continuous shooting, high, medium, or low. I choose high. That, like I say, gives me about 10 a second. The self timer, I haven't figured out how to keep that on yet. I was doing time exposures yesterday, and it kept turning off on me, so I have to figure that out. OIS is on. That's a optical image stabilization. It works pretty well, I guess, I think. PASM scene mode, and we got some scene modes, which is nice. Now, I would have guessed that monochrome would be under scene mode for in-camera monochrome, but it's not. We'll get there. White balance, fortunately, I think it has the color temperature in it, which is good. Then format, you can do JPEG or JPEG plus RAW, but not RAW alone. At this point, they're talking about it with a firmware up to date, possibly, I don't know. The JPEG settings, now under, it's under saturation, we get low, medium, standard, medium, high, and monochrome. So we can actually switch to monochrome under saturation here. And sharpness, I've chosen low contrast by default. Of course, I'm doing sRGB. I'm not doing any Apple stuff or Adobe, but it's on there. But I use low because I found the default is pretty high in contrast for this camera. At least so far. Of course, it's summertime and it's a lot of sunshine and glare. Video resolution, video settings, and this only does 1080p. Does not do 4K like the Deluxe. It's unfortunate. Let's see, video settings. We have here acoustic signal, shutter, I set volume low, and you get the other stuff there. Auto ISO settings, maximums, good to have. Turn review off. Power saving, you usually get, I think you get up to 15 minutes or off. Auto LCD off. Function button in live view is exposure. But again, it'll do these other things. You can set that too. Zoom lock button. That's the button up here on top. It does digital zoom or crop. And display settings. It's you can set the EVF LCD. What's neat about that is the it'll go low sensitivity, high sensitivity. So I think on low sensitivity, when you do one of these things, put something in front of there, it doesn't respond quite as quickly. It's not as quick to turn the LCD off. High sensitivity means that it's the least little thing that you do, it's going to switch between EVF and the LCD. I just set mine on LCD and ignore the viewfinder, but that's a very high-res viewfinder, about 3.8 megapixels or something like that. And what else we have? Live view setup. Oh yes, the level gauge, grid, all that sort of thing. I don't usually use a histogram either. The language, HDMI, formatting, camera information. We're at 1.0 right now. User profile, those are very handy. I've already saved my stuff under user 1. And it has Wi-Fi, I guess, of some kind in here. It's another thing I don't use, but it's available. It's probably not as advanced as some of the things out there, but at least it does have Wi-Fi. So that's the menu. And the thumb wheel here does a few things. Now, one of the things you can do on here on playback, which is kind of neat, they have kind of like a partial implementation of a touchscreen. It doesn't do quite as much as the Leica T, but what it does is pretty good. If you've zoomed in whatever, you can move that around with your finger or thumb. So it has that scrolling ability there. It also has the ability to swipe between next and previous, image that way. So that's so swiping and scrolling up and down and so on. And this also has touch to focus or touch to focus and shoot feature, so that you can actually touch the screen in a particular place and it'll focus and shoot at that particular focus point. So that's pretty handy. Yeah, let's see what else we want to say about this. Like a Q Type 116. I really like this camera. It's really handy, and I shoot pretty much evenly between the 28, the 35, and the 50, and I do those crops. And even though the resolution is lower, I don't mind because they all have a nice look. And if you're going to do really big prints, then you're going to need to get the full resolution on here. Of course, the 35 millimeter mode is still 15 megapixels, which is pretty good. But that other one at 7.5 megapixels, you definitely lose real noticeable quality there. So I have some photos at my website. Let me see if I can bring this up right here. Go to internet. My website is called dalethorne.com. And there it is right there, Dale Thorne site. And under photos, and I've got my first Q photos online right now. Here, like a Q116, page 1. And I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 photos on here so far. Here's one I did yesterday, a local bridge. And the quality on here is, now I shot this one at the, okay, double tap doesn't work on my website. Anyway, I shot that at the 35 millimeter setting, and I like it. Works pretty good, but I've got some sample photos out there so far. Some of them got some pretty amazing resolution in them. But there's that. And lastly, let's take a quick look at the box. The battery charges only outboard according to Leica, and this is the charger. You snap the battery in there and you plug in this real common electrical cord, plug it into the wall, and there you go, a couple hours. Charges pretty fast. I noticed first time I charged a couple hours, and subsequently about the same. Maybe if the battery is completely dead, you might take about 3 hours to charge that. But, yeah, the usual luxury Leica box, which has the magnetic opening here, and then we have the camera box on the inside, and that's where the camera was. And here's the lens hood, which I haven't been using. It's a very shallow lens hood. The thing about this lens hood, if I remember correctly, is when you attach it or screw it in, the lens cap will still fit on there the way that it does right now, so you don't lose that. Anyway, that's all there is in there, just the camera box. Down here we have the documentation, owner's manual, and so on. Guarantee booklet, registration booklet, and so on. I got my manual online from Leica, so I didn't have to bother with this book. Anyway, there they are. There's your test certificate and all that sort of thing. Then the accessories down here, which is the long cord, a short cord with a European connector on it. Why they did that, I don't know. Micro USB is what that is. So seems like the new Leica cameras are using micro USB rather than the old standard mini USB. If we can see that right there. Anyway, there's an HDMI slot in there as well. And well, that's pretty much it for that box. So we have the unboxing, we've covered the cases, and the camera itself, and gosh, I hope there's nothing I forgot right here. But I really like the operation of this because my previous favorite was the Leica Deluxe, which came out a few months ago, and it had a pretty similar layout, although it dedicated this thumb wheel to the exposure compensation. Here you can put exposure compensation on there, I believe, but then this wheel has other functions and shutter speed and so on. But a lot of similarities there in design, and I really like this design. One thing I kind of wish it had was a more conventional lens cap that also had a lens cap string. See the Leica Deluxe, I can take the lens cap and just drop it like that, shoot all my photos with it and so on, and I never endanger losing the cap because it's on the lens cap string right here. But for some reason they decided no lens cap string here. Of course, this is made by Leica, where the other one is made by Panasonic. So this, like I said, this thing is a pound and a half. It's going to feel a little heavy even for its size, especially for a non-Leica user, somebody who hasn't had one of these before. Great, awesome camera. If you can deal with a 28mm fixed lens, I think it's pretty fair for $4,250. Yeah, I like it. So there we go. Leica Q, like Quebec, type 116. Thank you very much.